Hello and welcome back to PECO TV. Today we are creating a gritty 1960s railway scene diorama with the new PECO lineside laser cut house kits and other PECO ranges. To build this diorama, I've had to look at lots of different books and on the internet to get a feel for a northern town with lots of terraced housing on the outskirts in the 1960s. Colin Gifford photography, which is well known for the era, has been extremely helpful in helping me create this diorama, and I have taken a lot of inspiration from many of his photos. So I'm going to try and do my best to replicate a 1960s rundown street view of the railway. And to do this, I'm going to need to use a wide range of PECO products to capture an authentic look. So, first I'm going to be using 4 of each of the LK206 and 207 lineside laser cut kits. From the wheels range, I'm going to be using the SS92 garden buildings and the SSMP 204 granite sets, and the SSMP 221 Victorian stone paving. I'm also going to be using the SS53 brick arch bridge and the SS77 York paving kit. Also, in the wheels range, I will be using the SS85 relay boxes, set 1, and the SS19 grotty Hudson privy. From the ratio range, I'm going to be using the spear fencing 434 and the telegraph poles 452 plus the modern lamps 455. From the PECO model scene range, I'll be using the 5083 dustbins and P-way ballast in weathered grey fine grade. I'll also be using from the PECO Scenes static grass applicator range the PSG1 and the PSG4, plus I'll be using the PSG10 basing glue, the PSG11 layering spray and the PSG13 layering spray. I will also be using a wide range of static grass colours and lengths from 2mm to 4mm. And to finish off, I will be using this range of Harburn Hamlet allotment plots and vegetation. So as you can see, I've already made a start. I've cut the polystyrene, which is very messy, and got that all done, and I've glued the track down to the correct height. I also cut a little bit off the underside of the bridge to bring it down a little bit lower. This is to make it more prototypical for a road that goes underneath the bridge. Otherwise, if it's too high, you wouldn't have lorries going through the middle, and that wouldn't quite be right for the era. So we've got that done, and I've marked out in lines different areas. Now there are reasons for that. There's another line across the back here. They are going to have the pre-built kits that I have already been working on and I have placed on my diorama. So as you can see, the row of house faces are going to sit there. I've got a house back, which I'm going to put about here. And I got another house back, which I'm going to, or set of house backs, which I'm going to put there. Now straight away you can start to see how this is going to work. So I'm going to put in a fence around here with some allotments in here. This is going to be a road. There'll be a little road here and a bit of scrub grassland here, which some cars might be parking on from time to time. And it just basically gives that sort of feel of it's a working, living town area. The road obviously will have a mixture of cob and tarmac. There'll be some manhole covers and other little bits and pieces. There'll be a pavement along here and along here. There'll be pavements either side of the road, down here. I'm going to put fencing, spear fencing down the sides here and here, and again here and here. But I'll also include another pavement along here, here as well. And this will be a more modern road which has been completely tarmacked. First, I start off by painting the sides of the embankment with a dark brown paint. When I've finished painting, I then start applying my ballast. I'm using a teaspoon to apply the ballast and brushing it with my fingers like this. Then I use the WWS ballasting glue poured into a pot, and I then use a pipette to apply it liberally all over the ballast. Next I take a look at the Wills York paving, cut and remove it from its spurs and join it together and paint it grey, before attaching it to the diorama. Simply using some super glue, I just run a bead along and then attach the pre-cut to size and measured piece. Like that. Next, I trim and cut to size the Wills SSMP 204 granite sets and super glue them into position, like this. Then I apply some brown paint to the rough scrub area and around the edges of my allotment. Now I'm turning my attention to the allotment and installing the ratio spear fencing. Then I begin to position some of the Harburn Hamlet allotment plots, positioning them in an appropriate position. But what I'm going to do to make these seamless so they don't seem quite so rised up, I'm going to cut around them and drop them in place so they're level with the top of the scenic area. So then when I add my homemade scatter, which is basically sieved soil, I can then add all the extra detail and put in extra things around. Once I have cut out the underlay, I glue the Harburn allotment plots into position. Next, I take some leftover Victorian York paving to put paths across my allotments, plus I glue them into position with some matchsticks to help form borders for each of the plots. Next, I take the Wills SS92 garden buildings and the SS19 grotty huts and privy and construct appropriate buildings for my allotments and then super glue them into position. Then I attach the fencing to section off one of the large plots. So here we have some sieved soil taken from my garden, which I have sterilised and made safe to go on my diorama. I'm going to use it as bare soil on the allotment. But how do I stick it down? I've poured some PSG 13 glue into a pot and painted it onto the areas I wish to colour with soil. Then I sprinkle the soil over the top. Next, I begin to apply the basing glue, the PSG 10, using a paintbrush all over the side of the embankments. Then, using the PECO static grass applicator, the PSG 1, I apply the static grass of my choice onto the embankment and over the top of the glue. Then I repeat the process in this area of scrub with the PSG 10. I also paint the glue into lines between sections which have no glue on them, which act as bare earth areas where cars have parked on the grass. Then I use the PSG 1 to apply a thick layer of static grass to the whole area and leave to dry. Then I use a mixture of the PSG 13 and the PSG 11 layering spray to attach some of the WWCNIC's fine foliage to emulate rough scrub on the embankment. I add some green foliage to the edges of the allotment and then apply an area with the PSG 10 and a small paintbrush to create a lawn using 2mm static grass. I apply this fine area of grass using the detailer applicator, the PSG 4. Then I add lots of vegetation, clumps of grass and flowers, and some vegetables to add some life to my allotment. Then I turn my attention to the road. I'm using Green Scene's textured light tarmac paint to help create an authentic looking tarmac. When the paint was still tacky, I then apply some finely sieved ash over the wet tarmac and then hoover off the excess. Now I add the spear fencing at the base of the embankments and I attached the rows of terraced housing using superglue. Then I add the cabinet relay box, drains and manhole covers, telegraph poles and street lighting. And then to finish off, I add 3 cars from the 1960s period. And there you have it, a convincing diorama depicting an urban setting from the 1960s. We hope you enjoyed this diorama build, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. So until the next time, happy modelling!